hope you're all fantastic. On today's video, I want to show you some straightforward and easy to implement tips and tricks for the new Boss Katana Gen 3. To get started, I have the brown amp model dialed up and I'm using the DI out on here, or the line out as it's called. So I want to look at the very first tip straight off the bat. We're going to come up to the system up here and we're going to go to the line out setting over here. Now, the default mode is that you get three different options, very straightforward. You've got record, blend, and live. I'll let you hear those three to get started. Now, I don't mind the sound of the recorded out on there. Live is a bit fizzy for me, but one new feature in here is you can actually come in and customize the line out setting, and you can have two favorites essentially in here that you set up. So there's a couple of elements to this. You've got a mic choice. So there's a bunch of different microphones in here. Then you can actually position this virtual microphone in here. So on top of that, you've also got an ambience section, which I'm going to turn all the way down. We'll take the ambience level to 0 and talk about that in a second. But my first suggestion would be to choose the mic wisely on here. You know, a classic selection would be a dynamic 57, but in the real world, if you went over here and you put a dynamic 57 on the cone, it's going to be a bit harsh. I think that's a lot better on there, just moving the little mic. Then you can experiment with different mic choices. I really like the dynamic 421 for dirty sounds. Just a little warmer and fatter on there. The condensers and the ribbon are great for clean sounds. If you're playing on headphones or you're listening, say, on in-ears, you can also add a little bit of this ambience in here. I personally like to keep the pre-delay quite low and just set the ambience somewhere between 30 and 50. This can kind of take the edge off and make it seem a little less like you've got your ear right on the speaker. That's just adding a bit of that room sound on there. If you're listening in headphones, you'd notice that. You can even crank it all the way up. There's no reason why you can't. Just a smidge on there. You could achieve a similar effect with a very subtle reverb on there as well. The next tip in combination with this is to use the global EQ. So if you're recording direct, what I would recommend with the global EQ is set up a parametric EQ and set the low cut to around 80 Hertz and the high cut to around 8K. This can take out some unnecessary low end and boominess or muddiness from the sound, and the high cut in there can take a little bit of that annoying fizz out. Let's have a listen to what these settings do. Just tidying it up a little bit on there, and that's just great advice in general for any direct solution on there. Great places to start. Make sure you use your ears and tweak that to taste. Let's keep talking about EQ in here though, because you do have different EQ types that you can go through, and you can kind of fundamentally change the character of your tone over here and really sculpt it. For example, you might try the 10-band EQ over here. This will take me from a big fat mid-forward brown sound to more of a scooped kind of boogie style thing. Have a listen to this. even further with the EQs in here, because on the general chain, you actually have an EQ that you can set as a pre-EQ and an EQ that you can set as a post-EQ in here. So if you didn't want to use that global EQ over here as a 10 band, you could come back and just do a simple high and low cut with a parametric, but you could use EQ2 for your kind of scooped out mid-range tone, but then you could do the opposite thing before the distortion in the amp and use EQ number 1 as a parametric to just kind of boost up some mid-range. So I'm boosting 1K on here. This is a classic trick. Have a listen to this. Notice that I added a bit of reverb and delay on there, just a bit of grease to make the lead playing easier. That works really well with that pre-gain mid push on there. I've gone over to the pushed mode now, and what I'm going to show you is a fun little trick you can do with the delay and the reverb block, because you can just use the reverb as another delay over here. So I've set up the delay to be an SDE 3000 with 300 milliseconds of delay. And then that's running into another SDE 3000, this time with 400 milliseconds of delay. So I have this offset delay and we can hear them in series to create a really interesting effect. I'll turn the second delay, which is in the reverb at the moment, off just so we can hear that. You could also do a similar thing by stacking the modulation with the effects block. Like you could use a chorus into another chorus on there and have the rate on one chorus low and the rate on the other chorus high. Combine it with the stacked delays on there. You could use delay into one of the delay and reverb modes over here as well and kind of get the best of both worlds on there. Furthermore, there is the new bloom control and the variations as well. So these kind of let you customize your tone on here. And one thing that I do like with this push mode is that the variation in conjunction with the bloom can actually give you quite a different change in feel and response. So let's have a listen to just the pushed amp on here. I'll bring the gain up a little bit and then we'll hear its variation and then each of them with bloom. I'm on the next single coil. The variation on there sounds a little more Fendery to me. The non-variation is like a little more Vox or low gain Marshall on there. So depending on the type of edge of breakup tone, you can use those as a starting point. Of course, you could stack those with drives, with those EQs we talked about on there, and take the simple Katana, which on the face of it kind of looks like a straightforward practice amp, and really customize it to a bit of a tone beast on there. I hope you found these settings, tips, and tricks useful, and I'd love to know how you're enjoying your Katana, whether it is one of the Gen 1 units, one of the Gen 2 units, or now we're onto Generation 3 over here. What's the best little tip or trick you found when using yours? And let me know what you're using in the comment section below. If you like what I'm doing here on the channel, links to my Patreon and the music that I make with Ragdoll are linked in the video description. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.